Jay Shri Ram. By the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Jagannath, Lord Sri Ram, we will continue the story of Rāmāyaṇa Part Two, Chapter 1, Into the Forest. If you are not watched the previous chapter of Ramayana, please go to the playlist and watch all the videos so that you can connect the journey of Ramayana Part 2. So the chapter 1 Into the Forest, it is mentioned here in that after their father had returned, Ram and Lakshmana left the city and went along country paths towards the forest. Even though they urged Sumantra to drive quickly, a large number of citizens continued to follow them. Ram stopped to rest after some time and allowed the people to reach him. He said to them with affection, "You have shown your great love for me beyond any doubt. Now, for my pleasure, please bestow this same love upon to my brother Bharata. I am sure he will take good care of you in every possible way. Although still a youth, he is old in wisdom and greatly heroic. He will prove a worthy master and display all your sorrows and fears. Serve him well, for he has been selected by your lord the Emperor Dasharatha. It is also my desire that all of you please him with your service. Be kind to the Emperor so that he may not suffer excessive agony in my absence." Ram tried hard to make the people turn back, but they would not return. The more Ram showed his dis- determination to seek to the path of righteousness and truth, the more the people desired to have him as their ruler. It was as if Ram and Lakshman, by the course of their virtuous qualities, had bound the people and were dragging them along. The chariot began to move forward again, and a group of elderly Brahmins, their heads shaking with age, ran behind, struggling to keep pace as the chariot picked up speed. They called out, "Oh, swift steeds, stop! Come back and be friendly to your master Ram, who is always intent on pleasing the Brahmins. O horses, halt! Although endowed with excellent ears, do you not hear our plaintive cry? You should not wear Ram away. He is pure minded, heroic, and virtuous. Therefore, you should return him to the city to be our king, not carry him away to some distant, lonely place." Ram looked back, feeling compassion for the distressed Brahmins. He did not want to ride himself while Brahmins walked. So he got down from his chariots and continued on foot. Although his heart was breaking to see the people's anguish, Ram looked straight ahead and walked him with firm strides, followed by Sita and Lakshmana. Sumitra drove slowly behind them in the chariot. As the Brahmins continued to besiege them, they gradually approached the bank of the river Tamasa. Searching out a suitable site, they decided to camp there for the night. The citizens of Ayodhya camped nearby. Ram released the horses and allowed them to drink the clear river water. After bathing, Ram spoke to Lakshman, indicating the forest across the water. They, there lie the desolate woods, my brother, echoing on all sides with the sound of a bird and beasts. The city of Ayodhya will similarly resound with the cries of forlorn men and women, lamenting for our having left. I fear for my father and mother who must be weeping incessantly and will perhaps even lose their sight. Ram thought of Bharata. By now, he would have been informed of the situation. Thinking of Bharata's nobility, Ram felt reassured as he spoke with Lakshmana. I am sure the high minded Bharata will take good care of our parents, consoling them in every way. As I reflect upon Bharata's soft heartedness and pity, my mind is pacified. My dear Lakshman, I am grateful you have chosen to follow me. For this to give me solace. Fasting for this our first night in the forest in accord with the spiritual codes. I shall now sleep peacefully. Lakshmana had Sumantra prepared a bed of leaves on the ground and Ram lay upon that with Sita. He soon fell asleep, but Lakshmana stayed awake, guiding his brother. Nearby, he could see the many fires lit by the people who were following Ram towards the forest. In the middle of the night, Ram rose and again spoke with his brother. It seems there is no possibility of us convincing the citizens to return to their homes. He said, looking across to the place where the people had set off camp. Just see the pains they are taking to follow us. Sleeping now on the bare ground, surely they would sooner give up their lives than go back to the city without us. Let us leave immediately while the people still sleep. They should not have to endure this austerity further on our behalf. As rulers of the people, it is our duty to eradicate our subjects' suffering. Certainly, we should not cause them pain. Thus, we must leave now and throw them off our trail. Lakshmana agreed, and as Ram woke Sita, he rose Sumantra and had him prepare the chariot. The two princes and Sita climbed aboard, and Sumantra drove it swiftly upstream, away from the sleeping people. The charioteer crossed a shallow part of the river and then, leaving the common road, drove through the woods, doubling back and going by different paths. Sometimes riding through shallow water for some distance, Sumantra made sure the people would not able to track them. He drove quickly, and before dawn, they had gone a considerable distance from where the citizens were camped. As dawn approached in the camp, the sound of a numerous bird mingled with the lowing of the cows which gazed freely on the river bank. Roused by this sound, the citizen arose and soon discovered that Rama and his party had left. They were shocked and began to loudly lament. They commended sleep for having stolen Ram from them. Falling to the ground, they wept and said, how could Ram, who is fit to rule the globe, put on the dress of an ascetic and leave for distant lands? How did that Joel say among men, who was like a loving father, go to the forest, leaving us forlorn? Let us now meet our end by fasting until death, or by setting out on the final great journey to the north. Looking at all around, they found big logs of dry woods. Some of them suggested they pile of the wood to make a funeral pyre and immediately enter it. What use was their life now? What could they say to their near and dear one in Ayodhya when asked of Ram's whereabouts? How could they say they let him enter the forest even as they slept? When they return without Ram, the city would surely become desolate and devoid of all happiness. Having gone out with the high souled hero, firmly determined to follow him anywhere. How could they now go back without him? Continuously crying out, the citizens sought out the chariot's track and began to follow them. When they found themselves thrown off the trail by Sumintra expert driving, they become uttering despotent. Their anguished voice echoed around the woods. Alas, what shall we do? We are doomed by Providence. Gradually, the bewildered citizen began to reluctantly head back towards Ayodhya, following the track of the chariots had made when leaving the previous day. Depressed and despairing, the citizens finally arrived in the city. They were blinded by grief and hardly able to distinguish between their own relatives and others. They searched for their home with difficulty, some of them even entering the wrong houses. Afflicted with sorrow, they cast their eyes all around, and although the city and their house were filled with abundant riches, to them it appeared vacant and nothing gave them pleasure. Ayodhya seemed at that time to be like the firmament bare fate of the moon. Everywhere its citizens shed tears and all of them felt like giving of their lives. No one rejoiced on any occasion, even when coming of an unexpected fortune or seeing the birth of a firstborn son. Merchants did not display their merchandise, nor did the goods even seem attractive. Householders did not cook food, and the household deities were neglected. As the men returned home without Ram, their wives reproached them. Without seeing Ram, what is the use of your house, children, and wealth? The wife said, it seems the only virtuous man in this world is Lakshmana, who has followed Ram to the forest in order to serve him. The men, pained by the loss of Ram, made no reply. Their wives lamented at length. How could they remain under the protection of the old king, who had lost his good sense and sent Ram away? Worse still was the prospect of serving Kaikai, whose aim was now completely achieved. Having forsaken her husband and disgraced her family for the sake of power, who else would she not abandon? The ladies could not contain their feelings. Out of despair, they remonstrated. treated with their husbands, thanks to Kaikeyi. This kingdom will be ruined. With Ram gone, Dasharatha will soon meet his end along with his distinguished line, which has existed for so long. How can there be any good fortune with Kaikeyi in a position of power? We should therefore end our life, or we should follow Ram to some distant place where Kaikeyi's name will never be heard. The glorious and ever truthful Ram shall be our only shelter. As the ladies of Ayodhya lamented, the sun gradually set on the city, leaving in dark and cheerless. Its lights unlit and its temples and public meeting placed deserted. Desert. Falling upon evil days, the celebrated city becomes silent. The sound of singing, rejoicing, and instrumental music having ceased. All the people remained in their own homes, thinking only of Ram. During the During that night, the chariot carrying the princess covered a long distance. As they traveled, Ram remembered the pain of his relations and people. Reflecting again and again upon his father's commands, he kept his determination strong and urged Sumantra to drive swiftly. They passed many villages, seeing on their outskirts well tilled and cultivated fields, as well as beautiful blossoming woodlands. People from the village to where the news of Ram's exile had already spread saw the chariot passing by, and they censured the empire and especially Kaikeyi, saying, "The cruel Kaikeyi has acted without prosperity. She has caused the exile of the highly virtuous Ram. What will become of us now? How will the delegate, delicate princess Sita survive in the forest? How shameful that the king could abandon all affection for such a son and daughter-in-law." Going more slowly as he passed the people, Ram heard their comments and he smiled at them without saying anything. As the chariot moved on more swiftly, the travelers saw innumerable gardens, fruits orchards, and lotus ponds. Temples resonant with the sound of a sacred incantations were everywhere. Everywhere. While sitting in the chariot and enjoying the sight of his flourishing kingdom, Ram thought of his coming exile. He would long for the day of his return to this prosperous land of Kosolo. As they at last reached Kosola's southern border, Ram got down from the chariot and stood facing the direction of Ayodhya. With his face covering in tears, he spoke in a choked voice, "I take leave of you, O foremost of cities, protected by the empires and your presiding deities. May you fare well. When I have squared my debt to my father and fulfilled his pledge, I shall return." Many country dwellers had gathered around Ram. They were filled with grief to see him bid his sad farewell to Ayodhya. Ram glanced at them with affection. He thanked them for the love they showed for him and told them to go home. The people simply stood gazing at Ram, unable to move. Although he urged them to return home, They stood rooted to the spot. They could not turn away from the heroic and handsome prince. As they stood watching, Ram remounted his chariot and it disappeared into the distance, even as the sun set at the end of the day. Gradually, the party reached the Ganga river in the Ushinara province. Along the bank of the river, for as far as the eye could see, I could see in both directions were clustered the hermitages of austerity, ascetics, and races. Hundreds of hills ran along the length of the river, and the river flowed with cool water flecked with white foam, making a roaring sound as it rushed, covering with white lotus. While in other thousands of swans, cranes, and heroines hung, hovered on its waters. It was the resort of even gods and Gandharvas who spotted along its banks, surrounded by trees, laden with fruits and flowers, and full of varieties of singing birds. The river appeared most beautiful. Seeing these celestial regions, Ram decided to stop for the night. He took shelter under the branches of a large tree and sat down to offer worship to the Ganga. Sumantra unworked the horses and allowed them to drink and then roll on the grassy river bank. The charioteer stood with folded hands near Ram, who sat peacefully with Sita by his side. The king of that territory was named Guho, a dear friend of Rama who ruled over the tribal people known as the Nisandhas. Hearing from his people of Ram's presence, he immediately went to him. Guha found Ram by the bank of the rivers and he stood at a distance waiting respectfully for his audience. He was overjoyed to find his friend arrived in the kingdom, but his joy was mixed with sorrow at seeing him dressed as an ascetic. Ram, Rama looked up and saw Guha standing there, surrounded by his relations and elderly ministers. Quickly approaching him with Lakshmana, he tightly embraced him and they exchanged greetings. Guha spoke to Ram, whom he had met on many occasions in Ayodhya when going there to pay tribute. I am honored by your presence in my kingdom. This land here is as much yours as it is mine. Indeed, I am your servant. Only order me, and I shall immediately do whatever you wish. He showed Ram the many varieties of food and drinks he had bought, as well as the excellent beds he had prepared for them. Ram thanked him and said, I have been well honored by you today. You should know that I am under a vow to live in the forest as an ascetic. I accept your offering, but allow you to take them back. Please leave only as much as may be taken by my horses. Since these trees are dear to my father, you will please me by serving them well. Reluctantly, Guha commanded his men to do as Ram had requested, having the best of food brought for the horses. He, watched with sadness and admiration of Ram, accepted only water for himself and then lay down to sleep on a bed of leaves. Lakshmana washed Ram's feet and again kept a vigil nearby. Going over to Lakshmana, Guha said, "Here is a bed for you. There is no need to remain awake, for I shall stand here, bow in hand, and guide you all from danger. There is nothing in these woods unknown to me. Indeed, along with my men, I could withstand the attack of a vast and powerful army coming upon this region." Guha took Lakshmana by the arms and showed him the bed. But Lakshmana politely refused his offer. "Under your protection, we feel not even the least fear, O sinless Guha. But how can I rest while Rama and Sita lie down on the earth?" Lakshmana looked at his brother lying beneath the tree. His mind was troubled. How could one such as Ram, who was capable of withstanding even the gods in battle, be brought to such a state? Lakshmana's thoughts drift, drifted to Ayodhya. He becomes restless, thinking of his father and the subjects. Surely Dasaratha would soon breathe his last, having sent his dearest son to a life of serving austerity. Probably Kausalya and the king would die that very night, uttering words of despair and anguish, losing their beloved monarch. After watching Ram depart, the people of Ayodhya would be sieged with agony after agony. Engrossed in such thoughts, Lakshmana breathed heavily like an infuriated serpent. Hot tears glided down his face. Guho placed an arm around his shoulder and gently reassured him. As the two men spoke, the night gradually slipped away. When dawn broke, Guha arranged for a large rowboat to ferry the princess across the fast flowing Gangas. The time had arrived to leave the chariot and continue on foot. As the princes fastened on their armor and weapons, Sumantra humbly approached them with joined palms and asked for instructions. Rama smiled and said, "You have rendered me excellent service, O Sumantra. Please return now to the king's presence and inform him of our well-being. We shall now proceed on foot." Sumantra found it difficult to leave Ram. Gazing into his face, he spoke in an anguished voice. What man in this world has ever had to face such a perverse destiny? O Raghav, what is the value of cultivating pity and truth when we see such a result? We are gradually lost and ruined by your departure. Coming under the control of a sinful Kaikai, we will simply suffer. Sumantra broke down and wept for some time, and Ram comforted him as he regained his composure. Ram said, "I cannot think of anyone who is as great a friend to our family as you, O noble charioteers. Please act in a way which will not increase my father's griefs. Whatever his instructs should be carried out without hesitation, even if he orders you to serve Kaikai." Ram understood all the nuance of statecraft. He was worried that in his absence the king's minister and servants might try to undermine Kaikeyi. He wanted the kingdom to run smoothly and his father to be spared any unnecessary anxiety in dealing with intrigue, wanting also to ensure that his family not be left anxious for his sake. Ram added, "Please tell my father that neither Lakshmana nor Sita nor I are grieving in any way. Happily do we commence our rejoin journey in the woods. The period of 14 years will soon pass and we shall return." Ram considered the urgent need to re-establish stability in Ayodhya. He spoke solemnly to Sumantra, asked the king to fetch Bharata quickly and duly install him as prince regent. Bharata himself should be told to accept the post without any hesitation. For this will be most pleasing to me. He should then serve the king and all the queens with an equally disposed mind. Ramagi gave his permission for Sumatra to leave, but the charioteer still stood before him, his mind perplexed. How could he return without Ram? He revealed his mind to Ram. As we left the city, the people were particularly rendered senseless with grief even upon seeing you in this chariot. What then will be their state when they see the chariot returning empty? Surely Ayodhya will be torn into two, even as the army of a hero is split apart when it sees his chariots carrying only the charioteers, the hero having been slain. Sumantra thought of Dasaratha and Kausalya. They would be devastated by grief when they heard that their son had actually entered the forest. Sumantra felt incapable of returning. He pledged with Ram to let him go to the forest too. He was prepared to remain with Ram for the full 14 years rather than going back to Ayodhya without him. Falling Falling to the ground and clasping Ram's feet, he spoke with pain in his voice. "My desire is to convey you back to Ayodhya at the end of your exile. If I must return without you, then seated upon the chariot I shall enter blazing fire. I am your devoted servant, and it does not befit you to abandon me now. Let me follow you and render your every service. 14 years will be as many moments in your presence, while in your absence it will seems like a 14 ages." Ram was moved by compassion by Sumitra, who was piteously supplicating him again and again. He lifted the weeping charioteers. "I know your devotion for me, Sumatra. However, I must ask you to return. Kaikeyi will not be satisfied unless she see the chariot return Charioteer return without me, and hears from you of my entry into the forest. For the good of the king, I want her to be convinced that I have fulfilled the terms of her boons, and I also desire that her son Bharata be given the kingdom." Rama knew that if any doubt remained about whether or not he had really gone to the forest, then, in the hope of his return, they would not install his brother Bharata. He therefore convinced Sumitra for the need for him to return the Ayodhya, carrying the message he had given. With a heavy heart, Sumitra finally assented and got off on the chariot. Ram then turned and spoke to Guha. It would not be proper for me to stay in a region where I have many men to serve me. I wish to go to some uninhabited part of the forest and live in a simple hermitage, gathering my daily foods from wild roots and fruits. Rama knew Guha and his people were hoping to accommodate him in a nearby wood, but he was devoted to virtue and wanted to properly follow the scriptural instructions, which prescribed a life of strict asceticism for one taking the vow of living in a forest. Using the sap of banyan tree, Ram and Lakshmana matted their hair into a thickened mass with their matted locks and their bark and grass garments. And the true princess looked like a couple of ascetic Rishi. Ram helped Sita onto the boat and then jumped aboard himself. Along with Lakshmana, headed by Guha, the oarsmen peeled the boat out across the river. Ram waved to Sumantra, who stood motionless on the steady river bank, gripped by despondency. The boat approached the southern shore of the Ganga swiftly and smoothly. Sita folded her palms and prayed to Goddess Ganga for protection in the forest. The river was placid and shone like a sheet of glass under the bright sun. Small ripples spread from the side of the boat as the oars gently and rhythmically splashed the water. Ram and Lakshmana sat silently thinking of Ayodhya and their family and friends. They watched as Sita sat in the prow of the boat, her eyes closed in prayer. Gradually, they approached the shoreline, with its sprawling forest reaching particularly to the the river's edge. After the party disembarked, Ram said a fond farewell to Guha. He embraced the forest chieftain and then turned and walked towards the thick forest. Lakshmana went ahead of him, placing Sita between them. As they walked, they heard the sound of a beast and birds, the shrill trills of parrots, the grunts of boars, the cries of monkeys, and occasionally glows and roars of tigers. Rama was about apprehensive about Sita's safety. The vast and trackless forest lay immediately ahead. What dangers would they now have to face? But as they began to penetrate into the forest, Ram fears for Sita gave away to delight. At last, the moment had arrived. His father's sword would now be redeemed. Despite any anger, he would surely stay here for 14 years, thinking only the glory of his age and pious father. Keeping his mind fully alert, Ram gripped the great bow which hung from his shoulder, and placed his other hand on the hilt of the blue steel sword strapped to his belt. The three travelers had become hungry and they searched for roots and bulbs fit for offering in the sacred fire. After they had cooked and made the offering, they ate, and when the meal was over, they performed their evening worship. Ram and Lakshman then sat together, and Ram spoke a little to his brother. Surely the king will sleep only fitfully tonight. O Lakshman, on the other hand, Kaikeyi will rest peacefully with her desire object fulfilled. Ram was pensive. Until now, he had not dwelt upon his own anxiety for fear for increasing the pain of those he loved. Now that he was finally in the solitude of the forest, he felt a deep disquiet. What other terrible or suffering would Kaikeyi cause for his father? With Bharata installed as prince regent, perhaps she would even try to bring about Dasharatha's death so that her own son might more quickly become the king. How could the king protect himself, being weakened by grief? What would become of his mother Kausalya as well as Sumitra? Rama appeared anxious as he continued. I think that in the morning you should return to Ayodhya. O noble prince, protect our mothers and our aged father. I do not see anyone else who can guide against Kaikeyi evil intrigues. Even now, she may be plotting to poison our parents. Although he felt helpless, Ram nevertheless censured himself for failing to secure his parents' happiness, having undergone gone great pains to nurture him with love. They were deprived of his company just when they should have found their labors repaid. Alas, exclaimed Ram, I am an ungrateful and useless son. Rama wept. He could by no means breach the order of Koike and his brother, but he feared he might be acting wrongly if the result was his parents' death. Torn apart by his feeling, he wanted Lakshmana to go back to Ayodhya to protect them. Ram lamented loudly for some time. When he fell silent, Lakshmana replied, please do not grieve in this way, dear brother. You as you simply cause grief for myself and Sita. It is not possible for me to leave you as I would not survive even for a short while in your absence. Placing your faith in the pious Bharata, you should not send me away. I only wish to remain with you here and do not desire even the highest heaven without you. Ram remained silent. He knew well that Lakshmana would never leave him. It had grown dark and the brothers sought the shelter of a large tree where Ram and Sita lay down to rest. Lakshmana remains awake a short distance away, vigil- vigilantly guiding them from any danger. Gradually, the full moon rose and shone through the branches of the high trees, illuminating the beautiful faces of Ram and Sita. They slept with appeared to Lakshmana like two more moons fallen to the death. The following morning, the following morning, after sunrise, they went in an easterly direction towards the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. They were keen to find the hermitages of the Rusi whom they knew lived in that region. The famous sage Bharadwaja, the leader of all the Brahmins inhabiting that forest, dwelt nearby. They, as they walked, they were enraptured by the colorful beauty of the forest. How huge tree rose off on all sides. In some places, the trees opened off into expansive, clear carpets by innumerable varieties of flowers and shrubs. Lake of the crystal clear water covered with white, blue, and reddish lotus were seen here and there. The trees were laden with blossoms, filling the air with their fragrance. The sounds of chocos, parrots, and peacocks echoed all around. Keeping close together, the three travelers walked throughout the day, sometimes moving easily and at other times with difficulty through densely wooded regions. Towards the end of the afternoon, they heard in the distance the sound of the two rivers rushing to meet each other. Around them, they began seeing signs of life, chopped woods and man-made paths. Catching sight of a smoke rising above the tree, they realized that they had found the dwelling of the Rusis and they quickly went towards them. At the prescience of the hermitage, they were greeted by a young ascetic who was a disciple of Bharadwaj. He led them through the many thatched cottage of the Brahmins community, showing them to a great sacrificial arena where Bharadwaj was seated, surrounded by his disciples. The sage sat before the sacred fire, absorbing meditation. As soon as three travelers caught sight of the influence Rishi, they prostrated themselves on the earth in oblivions. They waited respectfully at a distance for the sage to beckon to them. Bharadwaj, Bharadwaja had attained virtual omniscience by his long practice of asceticism and meditation. He immediately sensed the presence of his exiled guest and he rose up to greet them. Going before the sage, Ram said with joined palms, "We are Ram and Lakshman, the son of Empire Dasarath, O highly venerable sage. Here is my blessed and irreproachable wife, a princess of Bidha, Bidheha, and the daughter of King Janaka. Ordered by my ever pious father, I have come to the forest to live the life of ascetic for 14 years, and my brothers and wife have chosen to follow me. Please bless us." Bharadwaja gazed upon the face of his guest, understanding their divine identities. He offered them various delicious food prepared from wild woods and fruits. Tearful flowed from his eyes as he spoke to Ram. "I already knew of your exile and have been expecting you to pass this way. Your aspirations arrive here at my hermitages signals the success of all my austerities and sacrifice. It is highly difficult to have a sight of you, and today I am supremely blessed, my dear Ram. If you so desire, you may remain here in the delightful stretch of land, which is quite suitable for the life of asceticism. Smile and graciously accepting the sage's offering of love, Ram replied, "This hermitage is well known and not so far from the state of Ayodhya. The people will soon seek me out if I remain here. Please tell me of some other more lonely place, for I will not be able to tolerate the pain of the people again beseeching me to return." Bharadwaj understood Rama's concern. He directed the prince to a mountain named Chitrakuta, laying some 50 miles away. After spending the night at the sage hermitage, the three travelers set out the next morning towards the mountain. It lay across the Yamuna, which they crossed by means of a raft constructed from timber and bamboos. As they walked towards Chitrakuta, they saw countless varieties of trees and plants spreading everywhere in tumultuous of rich colors. The constant singing of thousands of birds resounded on all sides, mingling with the sounds of trickling rivulets and cascading waterfalls. From times to time, the trumpeting of an elephant could be heard in the distance. Branching of a great trees were bent on low under their burden of sweet fruits. From many of them hung large honeycombs, heavy with the thick honey produced by the black bee droning around the fragrant forest flowers. Sita was captivated by the beauty of the forest, touching and smiling the many blossoms that hung all around, com- completing completely forgetting his grief and anxiety. Ram laughingly held her hand and told her all the name of the trees and plants. The three travelers were elated simply to see such a celestial region. In great happiness, they moved towards Chitrakuta. The part of the forest leading to Chitrakuta had been rendered quite passive due to the regular traffic of ascetics, and the travelers made good progress. Towards the end of the third day to their departure from Bharadwaja Hermitage, they approached the foot of the mountain. They saw there a huge banyan tree which spread its branches of a dark green leaves away in all directions, bowing down to the presiding deities of the tree. Sita offered her respect. Sita prayed that they would successfully complete their exile and return that way again. On their way back to Ayodhya, Lakshmana prepared bed of leaves near the foot of the tree. After saying their evening prayers and preparing a meal, the travelers rested for the night. Though at the sunrise, the following day, Ram and his party moved on again. With the, with the great Chitrakuta mountain rising ahead of them, blushing in color. It was covered with crops of green, yellow, and red trees. Numerous waterfalls sprinkled in the morning sun. The mountain was sheer in place, smoothly sloping everywhere. Its snow-covered peaks disappeared into the cloud. The travelers stopped and stared for some time and at its majestic beauty. They began to ascend the mountain and some way of its side arrived at the hermitage of the sage Valmiki, situated on a broad plateau. The sage was joyful to see Ram and his companion. He greeted them with a hospitality and respect, and they conversed some of time. Valmiki told them of his own history, although he was now a powerful ascetic blazing with bodily lusters. He had previously been a robber who had maintained his large family by plundering travelers. The Rishi told the whole story. Once long ago, the, en- the encounter the sage Narada in the forest and sought to steal from him. The sage told Valmiki he would happily give his anything he wanted, but he told him to first go to his family and ask them the following question: Are you prepared to accept a share of the sin which will ensue from my crimes? Valmiki assented to this request and they went to his family. However, they declined to accept his sins, saying that they only wish to receive from him the fruits of his actions in the form of money and goods, leaving them in disgust. Valmiki returned to the sage, who then told him to renounce his life of a crime and become a ascetic in order to bring about in Valmiki a full sense of the temporality of life. Narada told him to meditate on the word mere, meaning death. Valmiki thus mora, constantly repeated the word mora without realizing that he was in effect also repeating the holy name Rama. By his meditation, he becomes a powerful Rishi. Ram decided to stay close to Valmiki hermitage and asked Lakshmana to construct a cottage. Lakshmana quickly erected a timber wall hot with a thatched roof. Ram lit a fire and with roots gathered from nearby and cooked with the fire. He made offering to the god. He prayed to the Lokopalas, the principal deities who guard the universal quarters, asking them to sanctify and protect the dwelling. Then he entered it along with Sita. Within that spacious two-roomed hut, Ram constructed an altar for the worship of Vishnu in accord with the instruction of scriptures. Rejoicing at having found such a delightful place for their residence, the three travelers settled down in peace. This is how the story how the three travelers Ram, Lakshmana, and Sita going into the forest from Ayodhya. Hope you know something new in this story regarding Ramayana. We wish, I wish we will continue this story, continue this journey of Ramayana till the end. Please support, please like, comment, share if you like this subject. So we will together achieve the success to the path of self realization, the path of a spiritual life. Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Krishna.